been great to see you.
Likewise. Your background looks so nice. I love it.
Oh, thanks. My husband created that painting for me.
Wow. That's super nice.
I'm a spoiled girl.
I
I'm very well cared for.
like it. Great spoiling there.
Those are my coaches. On the right, on
That's
the left
it's
is
very
Vane.
difficult to see, but I can notice,
Okay,
yeah.
hang on. I'm gonna
Yeah.
fix it.
Okay, okay. Oh, nice. That works better. Wow.
Better?
Yeah, way better. Thank you.
Okay. This is Vane.
Mm-hmm.
This one right here, the red one.
Yeah.
He's 24.
Wow.
I've had him 10, 11 years. If
Wow.
I get sick, he gets sick.
Wow.
I was dragged by a wild Mustang for like a football field, and
Wow.
my thumb was amputated, and I got a bone infection. It's called osteomyelitis. Just about killed me. He joined me.
What?
He got osteomyelitis in his hoof randomly. Like if I'm sick, Vane's sick.
Wow.
He's like so connected.
Holy
Then that's the
moly.
little brother, Fire. And I had a stroke in 2022. And in 2023, I was at 1 year and I thought, okay, I'm going to celebrate being alive. I'm going to take my horse and I'm going to go to a horse race in the Grand Canyon. And I'm just going to celebrate. My truck blew up in the middle of the Nevada desert. He got very angry at my poor driving. Like he doesn't know my truck blew up, but he was mad and jumping and throwing fits. And so I called 911 and nobody could get to us. We were in the middle of nowhere. And the closest highway patrolman was 6 hours away and on his way, but it was going to be overnight. So I had to get him water.
How did you
I,
get it?
I opened the trailer and he broke a bull snap, thick bull metal snap at his chin, flipped up, reared up, hit his head on the trailer, broke the rope, flipped backwards out into the highway, and took off. Should have died that time, right? That's enough drama. He should have died. He takes off down the highway, and I'm like, he's going to get hit by a car. He's just going to get hit. No cars, nobody to help us. So he didn't get hit by a car. So I finally get a hold of him. I don't get a hold of him, but I get within hearing distance and he starts to hear me and he starts heading back up the highway, right? Gets hit by lightning.
What? No.
By lightning. And I don't hear anything. I hear boom and a big flash of light. And then I hear nothing. Like no
Was it
crying.
raining? Was it anything?
Desert lightning is weird. So I'm like, holy crap, he's dead. So I'm with my little phone light trying to find him out in the desert and can't find him. So dark. And I'm hunting and I'm hunting. And I called my husband. And he's like, Kim, you got to get back to the truck. You don't need to be wandering and join your dead horse. Go to the car. He's like, okay. So I slept in the truck. And as soon as the sun rose, I called him and I said, okay, I'm going to go look. I'm pretty sure I'm finding a body. I'll go look. So I go and I had put special racing shoes on him. We call them tennis shoes. They're plastic shoes instead of metal shoes. So really easy tracking. Right. So I'm tracking this horse, this stupid horse that I'm so mad at. We're throwing a fit and running away and getting hit by lightning and just mad. And I found the body print and no horse. Just a print. I could see where he fell. I could see just minimal thrashing. So about then the highway patrol showed up finally. And so he and I are tracking this horse and we found where he either went through or over or jumped the barbed wire fence because there's hair and there's skin and like he left signs. It was not a happy, skilled advance over the fence. He messed himself up. So we go through the fence there and we're following his prints. And he says, "Is that him over in the distance?" And he had binoculars and we're looking. It's fire. He's like 2 ridges over and he's found some girls that have shown him where the water is and he's grazing. I'm like, dang, he's alive. He's not
Wow.
dead. So we yell, and he starts coming towards us, and the mares run him off. They're like, "You're not going anywhere. You're ours now." So my husband arrived like an hour later. All 3 of us end up with heat stroke trying to track this horse down. So we give up. In the meantime, the Highway Patrol has called the ranchers that own the BLM lease, and they said very bluntly but kindly, that horse is dead. You can see him and he's walking, but as soon as those stallions get a hold of him, he is dead. Because geldings do not survive. They're a freak of nature and they get taken out by the herd studs. So we pretty much gave up, but I belong to some horse communities and they didn't give up. They were determined to get my horse back. Ends up a little struggle with the BLM, a little struggle with the ranchers, a little struggle with the drone pilots. Like, you name the group, they're out there trying to rescue this. I mean, he's beautiful. He is very, very beautiful. He's quite the horse, but he's a horse. So I am in the meantime not feeling well. I slept for a week because I one shouldn't have been going to race by myself given my health circumstances, and then two, to get heat stroke on top of all of that. I was pretty well gone for a week. So things cooked up and heated up while I was sleeping and started to get kind of violent. When ranchers decide they're going to take a plane out in BLM lands and round up Mustangs for the purpose of getting a domestic horse, people get really upset. Guns were in sight. So my husband and I talked and agreed that I really needed to go settle things down. So I loaded up his brother Vane. And it was a dangerous thing because if I mean, I was going, there were hundreds of thousands of Mustangs on this piece of desert. It wasn't safe territory to take. Just me going out there. So anyway, I was meeting all these people to try to do one last attempt to round him up. And then the agreement was, if we don't get him today, everybody needs to stand down. He can be a Mustang. It's really okay. So we finish. I get there and my boys and my husband are really upset with me because I had published the GPS coordinates. Like, "Mother, you don't even pack a gun." I'm like, "I don't need one. I'm mean enough." They're like, "Mother, you're out there by yourself in the middle of the desert. Anybody can come find you." So I compromised and I stayed at the rodeo grounds, and some very nice people were looking out for me. And so I went in the morning to go get ahead of everybody to get to the spring. There was one spring that all the horses rotated through. So we knew at some point during the day or two that he'd have to go there or he was dead. So there was some reason to it. We came across the cattle guard, and that boy came running out of the desert to us, full speed. He knew it was us. He came barreling to me and his brother. I couldn't see him. All I could see was a dust cloud, and I thought it was a bull, a herd bull coming, because they get a little territorial. So I had stepped to the side of the car, and I zoomed in with my phone, and I got him barreling his way home. I couldn't believe it was him. So he's a full-on miracle.
Wow.
Yeah. So my sweet husband had commissioned that painting. I just got it
Wow.
a couple months ago.
It's beautiful. Thanks for
Thank
sharing.
you. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing this story.
Tell me about you.
Well, what do you want to know?
I want to know what it means to optimize 1% each day.
It means following curiosity and seeing where it leads. Yeah. So it's interesting. Um I had this the way that my mind works is I follow the curiosity, and at the same time it's a structured curiosity. It's not just what I would call short-lived curiosity, but it's like one thing leads to realizing or unblocking or popping up new veins of curiosity that leads to further veins, to further veins, to further veins, to further veins until I am very deep into something. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic, right? So the way that the things that I do nowadays is because I basically many years ago, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I made a simple promise, which is never finishing one day without learning something new for at least 10 minutes. That's it. And just 10 minutes. And I decided to pick one topic per month. So every month I will choose a topic. And basically, I created my own academy, so to speak, for myself, right? And understanding that at that time, 10 years
Beautiful.
ago, it's so funny to think about it. Nowadays, with the technology that we have, it's so easy to create that one. At that time, it was equally easier, but it was not very commonsensical. And now I see like everyone can do what I did,
Yeah.
and I did not realize that I was tapping onto dopamine receptors in my brain that were like, so that could happen. So I created my own addiction,
Love that. That's a
and I
very
thought,
healthy addiction.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, it can be taken to any capacities. I remember that sometimes I'm obsessive, so I could be like, "No, I need to do this myself." Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
Yeah.
I've learned over the last few years how to be chiller," and so that was very nice. And optimizing 1% every day starts mostly with curiosity. So curiosity, continuous learning, and Kaizen, continuous improvement. And it started with oneself, but then it started expanding to other people. It's like, oh, what is this human in front of me doing, saying, or what is the kind of pain or pleasures that they have, and how can I support their growth of that one, right? So that is where this path has taken me.
What's your favorite experience where someone adopted that philosophy?
Hmm. Interestingly, I don't evangelize the philosophy. I just live it this way. And probably because of that is that people remember that that is part of their default operating system. Meaning every kid, there is not a kid that I know, a baby that I know, like, oh, that sounds boring. Bye. So like that's like, oh, what is it like? Let me try this. Yesterday, my sister sent me my almost 1-year-old nephew's video where he discovered this toy called Trash Bin. And it's this flippy thing. Like the guy is like, "This is amazing, right?" Like he has so many
Yeah,
toys. And I said, "That's such a sophisticated
that's
piece of
beautiful.
toy, right?"
Yeah.
So answering your question, it's not the adoption itself, but it is the remembering that they have the capability to do so. My theory is that because of social conditioning, academic conditioning, people um, have been told and they have believed that they can only put their attention in a specific thing, that there is
Mm.
their major, their what they're supposed to do. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
funny things like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm gonna be a firefighter, and guess what? You're gonna only talk about fire, and you're gonna forget about the other elements. I want to be just a doctor, and then you're gonna forget about how to create a business, because if you're a doctor and you're a poor doctor, you're not saving yourself. Or I want to be a doctor and you don't know about your diet, like how come of a doctor are you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So in my case, and this goes into what is called the T model of learning, when a person from all of the different bodies of knowledge, they go very deep into one. Fantastic. That's fantastic. That's a type of personality. But what I do
Mm-hmm.
is more a WWW. So I have not as much depth in one topic. I have deep, less or shallower parts in many of them, which allows me to see things from different angles, which is how the brain works, right? And that is how I decided to live my life, and because of that, probably I inspire others to do the same, or they get inspired to do the same. It's not like get inspired to this. It's not like that, but I tease their curiosity.
I love that idea of a W. Do you ever do it as an M? Do you ever go up and over?
Yeah, that's a good one. It could be in that regard like that. And actually, that is how we build things. I think that curiosity
Yeah,
starts is as a W, but the building of that curiosity implementation goes with an
love
M.
it. Yeah.
Right? So we're
So in
simply
research, we go very, very deep, but sometimes then that taints the evidence because now we've just gone deep and we've gone very, we put binoculars or not, what is that? Like a
microscope. Yeah.
microscopic view. But then in order to validate it, we have to take the opposite approach and go up and out, farther out to be able to really judge if we've learned it or read it correctly. Do you think that applies in the way you teach learning? Would that be the same idea?
It's very similar. And actually, sometimes I will learn completely opposite things to see, like, okay, what am I missing right here? And
Hmm.
so it is just a different angle of learning what I apply. Is not the most efficient. It's just my angle of learning. And equally, as you said, the going in depth is another one. So I think both are complementary ways of learning. And that's how I even implement the way that I think do things. It
Hmm.
has several facets or several angles. And one of the things that I tell people is if I'm sharing this with you, do not trust it blindly. Actually, use critical thinking. Go and try it yourself. And it's not like because this guru says this or this other guru says that. Even validate the information that you have gotten from them by proper experience, by your own experience, and then decide if that works for you or not. Right? So,
Yeah, I like it.
in that regard, the art, I do believe it's an art of learning in that regards because it's okay understanding that someone has done research on all of this. They may have some type of truth that is collectively validated, and at the same time, what would happen if completely the opposite is equally true?
That's a hard space to stand in, don't you think?
Yeah,
Like, I think it
or
scares a lot of us that
of course.
there can be absolutes that are in opposition, yet also be true.
Yeah. What would happen if we think that we are carbon-based life forms and that life can only exist if there are some traits of specific minerals, specific elements in the universe that create life. And we are missing that there is a completely other type of element that we have not even thought about that actually creates the opposite. And equally what we call life. And we were
Mm,
like, oh, shoot. Let me give you an example. We thought that oxygen was a primary driver of respiration in the human body. We
hmm.
came to realize that, oh crap, it's not oxygen, it is surplus of carbon dioxide that triggers the, the respiratory mechanics.
Right.
So we have both, but the carbon dioxide is has a more potent trigger than oxygen, lack of oxygen.
And in improper ratios are poisonous, right?
Exactly. Equally, oxygen, if you super oxygen or hyper oxygenate something, you start creating free radicals, which is equally damaging.
As is the opposite end of that scale on the carbon side. Like you can get
Literally,
CO2 poisoning so easily
literally.
thinking that you're doing good.
Yeah, literally. So, in
Yeah,
between those extremes, as you said, which one is what it is the most effective or more adequate for me at this moment in time, which means that doesn't mean that it's gonna be always the same thing.
right.
Doesn't mean, right? Someone is okay. I'm going to be a vegetarian forever, and then they realize they are not realizing that their body's asking for beef, for meat. Maybe it's based on I will have worked with many women that they, for example, they were depriving their system from iron, especially during ovulation and menstruation, and because they were so dogmatically attached to an idea, they were actually
Yeah.
in detriment of their bodies. So I said, okay, you can be vegetarian. What if you would be vegetarian 3 weeks per month? And they said, like, I never thought about that. I said,
Good to have choices in life.
so that's partially my approach towards human optimization.
So how do you share that approach and who who is most in need of it?
Every person that has the opportunity to breathe has the privilege or has the opportunity to do it. That doesn't mean that they need it. We all are part of doing what I'm doing, this thing. It's just the remembering. We have forgotten that we have the capabilities. We just have forgotten,
So good. Yeah.
right? So in Greek, the word, well, here in English, the word amnesia is we have forgotten something. Anamnesis, which is a Greek word of the opposite, remembering or we have forgotten. I'm like, oh, oh,
Interesting.
oh. I forgot that I was playing this game. Oh yeah, I was just playing this game. I don't need to take it for granted. Or I don't need to take it
Right.
so seriously. I was a game.
Yeah.
I was playing to be a doctor. Uh,
I like the other form of that word, which is omniscient.
Omniscient, yeah.
Omniscient to know all. And at one point, I think we did. And then we experienced the amnesia, which doesn't negate the fact that we once knew.
And the knowing, I think it wasn't with the cognitive capability, or it wasn't with intellectual capabilities. It was something deeper than that.
Did you learn? So I'm seeing that you're in La Paz and
I
having
was born
taught,
in La Paz. Yeah, I was
you were
born in
born
La
in La
Paz.
Paz,
Yeah.
and you were educated there.
I went to school there, to university, and then I educated through this academy that I created myself over the last decade.
So I taught school on the Mexican border. So I got a little bit of insight into the differences in learning style culturally. So my question is, if if we look at cultural differences in the way of knowing, when I was growing up in Wyoming, we were taught that we only access 10% of our brain, that there's this vast bank of knowledge that we just, not that we can't necessarily, but that we don't. So I think I'm probably older than you. Um, what did you learn about the brain's capacity?
They didn't talk about it in Bolivia.
They didn't.
So the concept of neuroscience or anything related close to neuroscience, it doesn't happen, as far as I know, in schools at all. It is
Hmm.
from people that start making it, more, I would say, more open to people, but they have no idea how their nervous systems work. They think that that's how things are, that's how the society works, and they're not tapping into what their operating system, internal operating system works, right? And so do I. I was so unaware of that. So unaware
Yeah.
of that.
So if it's not happening in schools, I would say that some of those students and those families came very culturally aware and equipped, that there is a lot of knowledge that exists outside our consciousness. If it isn't in schools, then where are they learning that?
Well, that would used to be part of the traditions, at least where I came from, right? The Quechua, the Aymaras, which did not have knowledge in terms of academic knowledge, but they had wisdom. They had connection with nature. They were very connected between themselves, and they had their own philosophy around how to live life. And those ones were imparted through stories, generational, and you know how that goes. And the collision, I would say, the collision with the Western world, or of uh, all socializing or creating the system that we live into, is what is open up a new way of living in society, but at the same time, in detriment of how smaller tribes used to work. I'm just finishing to listen actually a podcast with Daniel Schmachtenberger a couple of years
Mhm.
ago, the podcast, but it's mentioning about how, not himself, but the interviewer, that we knew that our range of social capability or bandwidth was about 150 people. What happened when we went beyond that? It was hard for everyone to have a voice in the tribe. Now we're living in places where we are so surrounded by people, yet there is not a single voice that sometimes we can connect to. Uh,
So, do you think that is an advance or a retreat of wisdom?
mm, uh, I don't think that even. Interesting. I do believe it's an opportunity for wisdom to emerge in a different context than we humans were used to share. Because I don't see that knowledge and wisdom are the same thing. For me,
No,
are
not
not
at
the same
all.
thing, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So so we needed to create and continuously evolve, or I would say, yeah, create new forms of knowledge to sustain the systems that we live into, but that doesn't mean that
Sure.
wisdom was practiced. And so wisdom
Right.
practices in those moments when we are mostly in connection with other people. Wisdom doesn't come bottled in books or comes in words. It may have words, it may be expressed through words, but it comes in the way that we relate to each other, to ourselves, and to nature itself. So, when answering your question, for me, there is an opportunity for wisdom to emerge in different ways, at least in the scale that we're living in right now. And that doesn't mean that the entire city, for example, I was in London 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, and
Mm.
so populated, so many people are walking on the streets, but at the same time, all of them are like having their own stuff, like, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, how do we start bringing portions, or I would say APIs of wisdom interconnected in ways that are, because the wisdom of one tribe is different, that is slightly different than the wisdom of another tribe, yet is
Sure.
equally powerful. There are truths in both of them,
Yes.
right? Because where they came from, otherwise they wouldn't have not survived until that moment. So there is some truth,
Precisely.
right?
Yep.
Now, I do believe that that is this a type of narrative that we have told ourselves. That even myself, I'm a researcher, Kim. I'm researching on breathing protocols, I'm researching
I love
breathwork
it.
techniques, etc. Even I need
Yep.
to, as you mentioned, take a step outside, saying, "Hey, JJ, are you fooling yourself with this data? Are you biased? Are you biasing yourself, thinking that, oh, this is the way to go?" Or what if we like get out, right? So same thing in the context of having multiple sources of wisdom that potentially could emerge if we're able to step out and see, oh, I appreciate this perspective. I didn't think about this perspective, or this other perspective. And my guess is that that is one of the avenues that we have to create a collective shared wisdom.
Yeah, I agree.
It's such a tricky thing. I'm so glad that you, for example, coming to Austin with other leaders that have the capabilities of start inspiring people to think in different ways. And you asked me in the things that I shared. I personally, and answering your question, one of the first questions, I don't really do education. I don't even educate myself. What I do is educement. Have you heard the word to educe?
Yeah.
It's to basically remove the garbage, or remove the blockers, so that wisdom emerges. That's what I do. And then on top of
Hmm.
that, I can say, "Oh, have you talked about this? Do you know about this? Do you know about that?" But I'm not saying like this is how you should do it. I'm just allowing the person or the people that I'm working with to find their own wisdom, which later helps me to say, "Oh, wow, I never thought about that. That's that's fantastic."
Isn't that philosophy directly traceable to your tribal roots, though? Isn't that the way that the indigenous peoples of your area would have advised you to share knowledge?
That
Is
I
that
will
where it
have to.
comes from?
So in my case, for example, I was raised more with Catholic. So I'm a mestizo. So my traits, my genes are 98% Bolivian, uh, Aymara culture and around the area, 1%
Mhm.
Spanish, and I do believe 1% mixed with a llama, because everyone there has some type of llama, right? So my upbringing has been conditioned by the Catholic slash Spanish version of the world, and so I
Sure.
did not have that much exposure to local traditions myself because my parents didn't have it. So I'm a mestizo, second, third, fourth generation mestizo.
Okay.
Right? And for example, my mom's grandparents came from Germany. My dad's grandparents came from Portugal, etc. So I'm basically this mix of things. Now, all the things that I know about my culture is
Sure.
because I did research, and actually, my even my first and second psychedelic experiences were in my hometown. So I traveled the entire
Mm.
world, funny enough, to go 15 minutes where I was born to have my first ayahuasca experience. And that's when I thought, wait a second, this thing has been here all this time.
Isn't that how it is? You have to leave to really understand the power of where you are.
So that has been I would have loved to tell you, yeah, this is how the tradition of my bloodline, but that's
Well,
pieces
but
of.
so just to give you some context, when I was working with the Navajo Nation,
Mhm.
they are in a very similar situation with their children,
Mm,
and it's a problem. Like they're losing the language. One of the first things that we did was create an online course in Navajo language, which I don't speak, but I did hire an expert Navajo teacher to be able to design the courseware because it was a prerequisite in order for a Navajo student to be scholarship to college. They had to speak the native language. So there was a lot of incentive in order to do that. So part of what we did, we looked at a lot of ways that those students learned and didn't learn. So academically, when they were compared to their white peers or even their Mexican peers, um, they didn't stack up. They were struggling. They were on the lowest ends of testing, lowest ends of literacy. So we did an experiment. And even though they weren't raised traditionally, if we connected to their cultural roots and we taught, for example, one of the classes we designed was uh, earth science and space. So we talked about Mother Earth and Father Sky and the traditional beliefs that had been passed down for millennia from grandma to grandson and over and over and over again. And despite the fact that they were, say, two generations, most of them, past a traditional upbringing, when we coupled that tribal knowledge with Western science, their scores went up so fast because they had a foundation in it and it made the Western science a safe area of study because there was a connection.
mm,
What do you think?
mm. Yeah,
Is
you're
that
making me.
universal?
It's making me think because over the last few years I've been diving more into the teachings of my own culture, which is the Andean cosmovision of the world and the universe itself, and it's fascinating to see what they were doing at that time, and uh, even I don't know if my case is particularly a case that resonates with that. I do believe that for the majority of people it's going to, and actually I use it strategically in other ways. That liaison, I use it myself strategically, and in my case, this learning that I'm diving into from my own culture is been out of pure curiosity, right? But for example, let me give you an example. I lead very popular, thankfully, breathwork sessions. Yesterday, I was leading one for Vince Amon at Amon's house. Do you know Vince's brother Amon? So it was Vince Covino's house. So the Covino's house, basically.
Okay.
And so when I'm leading breathwork sessions, I have led sessions for obviously I have sessions here that anyone can come. I have led people for sessions for Google leaders of the US. I've led sessions for um, survival cancer patients. I've led
Mm.
for first responders, and what it
Mm-hmm.
happens is that I'm showing them air quote breathing techniques. So many people think, oh, it's like we're gonna do alternate nostril box breathing, bye bye. When I come there and it's like, dude, I'm gonna show you something that you can do it, but you didn't think you could do it. And so the reason I was bringing all of those groups is because for all of them, the protocol is the same. For all of
Hmm.
them, protocol
Yeah,
is the same,
sure.
except that the narrative that I get them into, the wrapper is different.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So the guys from Google, I'm not gonna tell them. So guys, you're gonna start experiencing this and this and that because you're gonna go up into an altered state. That's not gonna make me friends. I started talking to them in technology terms, in tech terms. I said, what if
Yeah.
your system, you have bugs in your system and you didn't realize that you have those bugs and your nervous system is working in detriment of that. How would you know when you have an offload or an overload of stress in your system? And I used to be a tech leader, so that's the reason I was able to use that jargon.
Oh, yeah. You can speak their language.
Right. And so for other people, I had to learn also myself. I was in Greece leading sessions right after London. Even though I don't speak Greek, I started learning some of the cues in Greek because I knew that that was going to hit differently, and it did.
Yes, for sure.
So answering your question, I agree that we need to create liaisons between the origin wisdom and other wisdoms.
I'm wondering where you think your curiosity, maybe not where, maybe it's why your curiosity keeps leading you into your ancestral past. Have you figured that out yet?
Not necessarily only into that one. It leads me into so many things, but the question specifically, or the answer is not only why it's leading me only to my tradition. When I was in Greece, I was devouring things. Since I was a kid, I loved Greek tradition or mythology, so I was right there. I loved uh,
Oh, yeah.
medieval history, and I was there, right? And so it is this answering your question, it's not only my culture, but other cultures that I'm fascinated because I see them as operating systems that people used to use
Mm,
collectively to observe life and do life. So
I
that's the reason
agree.
I love languages as well, because
Yeah.
the way that when I think strategically, I think in English because English has no that much emotional liaison in my system. So I can
Okay.
think without that much emotion involved. Yet when I want to process something emotionally, I use Spanish because my nervous system has more liaison to emotions since I use the language called Spanish, right? And so I see even the culture is not separated from language, and using those ones is beautiful for it allows me to see different angles of the same thing from different ways.
Yeah, our research shows the same thing. Like in our world, we study ancient stories all over the world in order to validate the formula that we teach for persuasion.
Hmm.
And we keep trying to our objective is to prove it wrong. And we
Hmm.
failed. We have not been able to disprove it. And it's just so simple. It's landscape, once upon a time, enemies. There was a dragon, there was a bad guy, there was a
Hmm.
problem that was threatening. A great hero was called to fight the dragon. The place that in persuasion most people err is deciding that they're the hero, they're the savior to somebody else.
Hmm.
And as soon as you do that, then you make whoever you're speaking to automatically feel like the victim. They're the broken one that you're coming in to fix. So instead, we advise that you take on and petition the role of essential guide, that you're there in service to them defeating the dragon because they have all the skills and weapons necessary to defeat the dragon. Maybe you can help them do it with less damage. Maybe you can help them do it faster. Maybe you can help them do it with fewer resources. But they don't have to have you to go fight the dragon, but you're an asset. And then five, new path. Like, what do you offer as the guide? And whether it's Star Wars, giving them the lightsaber and the Jedi code, whether it's Harry Potter and giving them the wands, whether it's Cinderella and the magic pumpkin and the fairy godmother, whether it's um, in the Amazon, it was an old tribal elder that taught the young ones how to go exploring in the Amazon. Every level of folklore that we study across the globe follows this same pattern. And then chapter 6, dangers. What are the things along the path to fight the dragon that you got to be careful of? It's the make sure you get home before midnight. Make sure that you don't disregard your weaponry. Make sure you keep your sword sharp. All of those, make sure you. And then chapter 7 is they all lived happily ever after. It's your ROI, it's your success factor. And I thought when we were asked to consult with the Iraqi Intelligence Foundation, when they had lost all of their business leaders and thought leaders, education leaders, to either execution or banishment from the country, that surely if my theory was going to be proven wrong, it would be proven wrong in a place that seems so diametrically opposed to Western thinking. And it wasn't. When I went back to research the Shia, they had very similar legends and folklore that the old ones taught the young ones about how to live and how to be and how to measure happiness in life. It all flows through that same formula. And in the end, the moral lesson of that for me is that there's so much more that we share than divides us. We have so much more in common. And to take it to what you said, if you breathe, you can benefit from breathing practice. It's as simple as that.
If you're a cognizant human, you can use stories to even persuade yourself to do something.
Yeah. And you probably cannot persuade yourself without it. 95% of a decision is based on emotion, and you don't get emotion with data.
Yeah. No.
That's what we do.
Yeah. So, and in your case, you work with organizations and individuals as well, or is it more B2B?
Legends is definitely a B2B play, but I have seen many people take the principles and they've applied it into therapy practices. They've applied it into relationship coaching. It's not my focus, but the formula is universal. It's how our our ancestors have coached us and taught us to be culturally. And so it's very applicable. We study organizational communication. We study how we lead movements, how we lead change. That's our focus of study, but the formula is universal.
And question, so with this formula, the leader or the precursor of the organization becomes the guide. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep. And then the people in the organization, then once they learn the legend, they become the guide then to the end customer. It's also about learning to allow yourself to be a hero to someone else and not see that as weakness, to allow yourself to be mentored, to allow yourself to be guided by someone else that is fighting the same dragon or has your interests at heart. That's kind of what we are trying to accomplish with Impact Accelerator, is making sure that it's not just rhetoric that says, I'm in here for this purpose, or I want to achieve this good. Let's actually measure out. Are we fighting the same dragon? That's a good way to match someone up for an investor and a founder. That's probably a successful discussion at that point. If you're fighting different enemies, you probably don't belong in the same organization. You probably need to go to somewhere else that you're a better fit. And it's not that you're not a good investment. It's not that you're not an investor seeking impact. It's that the impact you seek is not a match to the founder that's fighting that particular dragon. They're just not matched up. And less judgment and more measurement. That's how I see it.
What's going to be your role in the accelerator then?
I'm the researcher.
How is going to be the research conducted?
Typically, it's through observation. Typically, it's through specific requests. We have had requests from a number of founders, from a number of leaders internal to the organization to explore certain aspects, and so we'll do that and look at data and look at patterns of behavior, patterns of communication, If we can match the patterns, then usually we can validate that that's probably a really good avenue to take. If we validate the mismatch, then we can advise you
Mhm.
guys don't belong together, and it's okay. Part as friends, but do not sign contracts. Do not get married.
Mm,
You're gonna hate each other. This is you won't like this.
mm. Wow, it's so nice because you're helping them make better decisions as well, then.
So we don't draw the conclusions. We live in the
Mhm,
question and we look at the data and present it in a way that decisions can be made.
mhm. Mm. Wow, that's gonna be. Are you gonna be then doing the research during the? And those are individual research projects or part of the summit itself?
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the flow and be available and contribute as requested and spend a lot of time learning.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
excited.
Yeah, likewise. I was talking with some of the people that are gonna participate in the summit on Friday, yesterday as well, and yeah, it's very promising what things are starting to unfold. And I'm personally very excited, as you mentioned. And side note, I have been following for at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, a similar formula that you have on storytelling. From I met it through Donald Miller.
Oh, I like his
Yeah,
work.
yeah, it's very similar to yours, and it's like
Very,
very similar.
very similar. The real difference between Dawn's and ours is the research foundation.
Mm. Oh,
Like, we don't believe in telling stories for the sake of story. We want to make sure there's data behind it,
okay.
so that you communicate a very clear and validated truth. Um, Other than that, you're right. The formula is very, very similar because it's universal. I mean, it's
Mm.
not mine. It's
Yeah.
ancient.
Yeah. It's fascinating how so many people are stumbling upon the same formula from different angles. Obviously, in my case, I've been using it for two things, mainly starting to use it for marketing purpose of how to message my work. But storytelling for me is one of my favorite technologies. So I will use it with my clients to inspire them to do something or to take action, despite of the fear that they may be feeling, right? And one of the things that I've also learned, this one actually from observing many um, participating and observing many other summits and long retreats, is the way that stories get applied through those ones. I have stories that I will tell in public, but other ones I don't tell in public, and I allow people that when they're at a level of progress or a level of sharing knowledge that I drop stories of it becomes part of that one and then another one, which is I got initiated in Freemasonry since I was 15 years old. So
Really?
all of those ones have been stories over stories over stories. Every
We were
degree is
just
a
talking
story.
about that yesterday, and I was asking my husband's grandfather was a very high degree Mason,
Mm.
and it hasn't been passed down through the family. And I was like, how come you don't do this and your boys don't do this? And where did that all go? Did you receive it generationally or you found it independently?
Independently, the funny thing is that because I got initiated, then my dad got initiated. It's funny.
Oh,
It's funny.
backwards.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was funny. It was funny. And now my dad is one of the top Freemasons in Bolivia as well. Many years later.
I'm so fascinated by Masons.
Yeah, and mainly mainly obviously there are 33 degrees, but the three
Yeah.
top, the apprentice, companion, and master, and each one of
Mhm.
them have a legend, have a story that only that group knows, and then only this other group knows this one, and only this other group knows this one. So that's
Right.
how this one gets spiral over there.
Well, as I understand it, there's a base of knowledge that everyone has access to, and then each degree is a furtherance of sacred level knowledge.
Exactly.
And you don't speak of sacred things in a loud way.
Exactly. So that's the reason every degree has their own what they call kind of like code words and
Mhm.
code signs, body language that
Right.
it's only practiced within that circle, and that's how it serves to recognize who knows who's in that circle.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's sacred.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it was so interesting because it was about like 12 years ago when I moved to the US. I was having I was working in technology. I was leader of a development team, and I was having lots of conflicts with an engineer. This engineer was outstanding, outstanding engineer, but
Yeah.
extremely cocky. And
Yeah.
I'm stubborn as hell. So we're like this, okay? And
Yeah.
he came to visit Austin one day, and it was pure coincidence that I told him, hey, not only himself but other ones came, and for some reason he and I ended up in the same place. And I said, okay, let me take you to my apartment, and then we're gonna go to the restaurant. So I'm taking this guy that we're having conflict to my apartment. Okay. So I said, sit there, do you want some water? And he says, yes. The thing is, I go to the kitchen, and in my whiteboard there was one of the symbols of the Freemasons. Just not even the
No
entire symbol,
way.
just like the
Done deal.
silhouette. And he looks at me and he says, when did you get initiated?
Oh my
And that changed
God.
everything.
I love that.
Because
Okay, to wrap up uh, for me, will you think through if there's one sentence that transmits wisdom in a way that you would want to be known for, what would it be?
hmm,
There's one sentence or phrase.
hmm, hmm. Remember, you'll stop breathing.
You repeat it?
Remember, you will stop breathing.
Explain that.
It's just an awareness that the time that we have here is going to be over at some point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
I also like the use of the word remember, given the context that you shared, that we have the wisdom already within us that we've forgotten.
literally, exactly.
And do you think when we stop breathing that we find all of the components of that memory? Is that part of it?
Maybe a different angle. Maybe a different angle.
Is there a time when we're omniscient, or do we always have to carve out the knowledge that's within?
Maybe in another life form we are omniscient in another
Hmm.
vibration. In this one we're encapsulated in this 3D thing. We're
Yeah,
like this, but
yeah.
that's okay. Like let's enjoy this thing here, but maybe
Ah,
in another way. Yeah, that's the reason when you're here, Kim. How long are you gonna stay here, by the way?
I'm going to come on Monday. Wait, Monday? Maybe it's Tuesday, the 21st. I'm going to get there a day early
Mhm.
because I want to make sure I'm well rested and
Mm.
have a good mind frame. So I'm going to get there Monday or Tuesday, and I'm going to leave Sunday.
Sunday, great. What time on Sunday are you leaving?
Do not remember. My sweet husband booked my flight, so I don't
Okay,
know.
okay. The reason I was
Later in
asking
the
this
day.
because with Vince, I may lead a breathwork session for people at the summit. And
Yay.
that's another way to access wisdom. What's your experience with
Absolutely.
breathwork, by the way?
Lots.
Lots? Okay, let's see what happens
In
with
in
this.
a lot of different formats.
Okay.
Like I'm not specific. I do it a lot. And
Great.
uh I sing, so I learned it very early uh, to be able to use breath control. And then the other component that I've been geeking out on is training horses using breath control.
Yeah,
It's
that's
fascinating.
fantastic. Yeah, I've trained people even in Colombia here to co-regulate through breathing with them. It's
And
fantastic.
it works both ways. Like sometimes they're the guide and I'm the hero, and sometimes I'm the guide and they're the hero, and we share.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But I'm excited to experience that with you.
So yeah, we're coordinating with Vince when would be the an appropriate time for that. So I would love
Yeah, will you
to be
include
there.
me?
And if we're not able to make it happen, please be you and your husband be my guest at one of the upcoming sessions that we have online. It was super lovely to have you there.
Okay, I would love that.
Nice. And now let me wrap up this with you. What's a question that you would ask people to open up their minds?
The one that comes to me is rely on your instincts. What are your instincts telling you? Once
What's a
you learn,
question?
what are your instincts telling you?
Oh, what are your instincts telling you?
So when you receive data and you receive all of this input, use your breath work, take a nice long deep breath and let all of that settle in, and then find inside what the instinct says is true. And that's where you go right.
Hmm.
The instinct will guide you every time.
Hmm. That's
So my
beautiful.
question then would be, what does your instinct tell you?
So, that's so nice. Thank you. It's making me think right now. I'm gonna ponder this question. And I hope to see
I
you
do it every
then
day.
on the 23rd and 24th. I'll see you there.
21st. Yep.
Fantastic,
I'll
Kim.
be
Have
there.
an amazing, amazing day. Thank you so much for the time. I really
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
Talk to you later. Ciao, ciao.